to my new podcast. I'm Vero, and I've decided that I've got so many crafts that I want to talk about that it was about time I started. I've been knitting now for 5 years or so, but it just feels like it's now such an important part of my life. And I've just been trying my hand at every craft out there. And I thought this podcast would give me a chance to try different crafts and record the outcome, for better or for worse. So you can say hi on Twitter or on Ravelry. On Twitter, I'm Vero, and on Ravelry, I'm That Canadian Girl. And I would love to hear from you. Give me some feedback on this episode. Let me know what you'd like to hear, what you'd like to see. And we'll see where this podcast goes from here. So today, to get started, I thought I'd share why I finally decided to start podcasting. I'll show you a few works in progress that I'm working on, including this one, which I love, and just share a few yarns and books that I'm absolutely in love with. So, starting with why I decided to podcast and why on this rainy Friday night I decided that it was time to start. A few days ago I found notes, just scribbles, from about 3-4 years ago when I had this idea to start recording and sharing what I was doing. My projects didn't amount to much back then, but it was something that I fancied doing. Every excuse under the sun has come by. We've been busy with work. I've been waiting for the right camera. I've been just looking for every excuse. So today, let's start. So it's a new challenge for me. I thought it would give me something fun to learn a little bit more about video editing. And it's just a chance to look at all the crafts that I love to do and just see what everyone else is up to, what else has taken your fancy this year. And it's scary. I know it won't be perfect. In fact, I know it's going to be fairly hodgepodge, but let's give it a go. Let's have some fun, and let's just see how it goes. A little bit of liquid courage doesn't harm either. So, the first work in progress that I'm absolutely in love with and I want to share is the Hitofude the Hitofude Cardigan. And it's got such a fascinating construction, nothing I've ever done before, nothing I've ever seen on Ravelry. So, Hitofude is Japanese for single stroke. Referring to a single stroke when drawing, when painting. And in theory, if you don't make mistakes like I did, the whole shawl should be made in a single stroke, bar the fact that you need more than one ball, of course. I made a few mistakes, so that didn't quite happen. But you start by making this absolutely beautiful large lace rectangle. You can see the stitch pattern. It's just absolutely gorgeous. And once you've done the rectangle, you then sew together under the arms and continue around to then build the rest of the body. The reason this is such a special project for me is the first time I saw it was in September last year at the Great London Yarn Crawl, which I'll talk about in a minute. And two of the girls on my team were wearing the Hitofudes that they had made, and I was just walking behind them and absolutely fascinated by their shawls. So I decided that I wanted to make it, and to make it even more special, the yarn I bought, which is Madelinetosh Tosh sock, I got during the yarn crawl from Loop in London, which is a gorgeous shop. It's not the cheapest shop around, but it's really something worth seeing. They're based in Camden. So I got the yarn then, and I think I cast on pretty quickly, but the project just got put aside. We were in the run up to Christmas, started working on Christmas projects, and it's only recently that I dug it back up thanks to two groups of people So there's the really lovely Skein Queen group on Ravelry who decided to start a knit along, as well as my local shop in Cambridge, the Sheep Shop, where a few people also decided to do a knit along. So what better time to pull it back out? So I've now finished the sleeves, which gives me this kind of long tube that's open in the middle. And working on this section in the middle, I've now bound off what's going to be the back of the neck, and I'm going to continue what goes from there and goes downwards. It's not the fastest going project. I've found, I'm sure I'm quicker now, but when I started, I calculated that it took me 10 minutes per row. Each repeat is 8 or 10 rows, and just for the sleeves I needed 13 repeats. So it's definitely not a quick project. As far as I can tell, I think we've got some friends who have built a kit car faster than I'm going to finish this shawl, but hey, to each their own choice of activity. So my aim is to finish this before the first or second week of September in order to wear it for the next London yarn crawl. I'll give a link to the yarn crawl in the show notes. It's a brilliant event. You get to go visit a few yarn shops in London with fellow knitters, and then everyone meets up for a party. Or I think this time they've done it the other way around, where it starts with the pop-up marketplace and then you head off with your team. But it's always great fun. I'm sure there's tickets left, so do take a look. So this is my current main work in progress. I'm also working on another fun little project. This one is in Skein Queen Flockley, which is a really lovely yarn to work with. And the pattern is the Shaldon Poncho. It's by Bombella, and it's actually the second time I make it. I've made it also in Skein Queen yarn in Finesse before. I made it in a really bright, vivid acid green. This time I thought I'd make it in slightly thicker yarn, so this is fingering weight, and in kind of a deep grapey purple, which I think was one of the Skein Queen club yarns from maybe a year ago or so. And it's just a lovely, easy pattern. Makes for a really lovely, simple poncho. Not a big, thick Mexican style poncho. It's more of a shawl that won't fall off your shoulders. So really brilliant, really enjoyable, and quite a nice, easy project to carry around. So that's my two current works in progress. I've got a lot more which I'll share later in future episodes, but these are the two that I've been kind of juggling in the past couple of weeks. One slightly more demanding for attention, and one a little bit easier. And I've got various little like granny crochet square projects going for when I just need something little to carry around. And I don't yet have any finished objects worth sharing, but next week I'm hoping I can have something that I can share for that. So moving on to a few yarns that I've been really enjoying working with. There are a few, starting with, in fact, with the Madelinetosh lovely grey turn Tosh sock. That's a fairly well-known brand, fairly easy to find, I think, in most parts of the world. It's a pretty simple base, 100% superwash merino, and 384 meters per skein. I bought 4 or 5 of this to make the Hitofude, and it's just a nice, reasonably high twist yarn, pleasant to work with. And I don't usually work with greys and kind of neutral colours. I'm a bit of a magpie. I usually go for very bright colours, but I've just really enjoyed the simplicity of this colour, and it's been really pleasant. In stark contrast to that one, this is my absolute baby. I just love the colours. I'm not sure if I can bring myself to even take it out of the skein. So this is Skein Queen Delectable, and I suppose the Delectable base has a little bit of a special place in my heart because a few years back I was lucky enough to go to a knitting retreat in the south of France. Yeah, I know, it was as good as it sounds. And Skein Queen herself taught us how to dye yarn, and of course it didn't turn out anything like this. Some of our first attempts were questionable at best, but this is one of the bases that we used to dye for one of the 3 skeins that we dyed, and it's a lovely base to work with. It's really good fun, and I mean these colours are just absolutely beautiful, and I don't know what I'll do with it. It'll be something simple, something stockinette, something that will just show off the colours rather than fight with it with a complicated lace pattern. So I'm just really looking forward to playing with this. And finally, the third one. Okay, had to go digging around for the other ones a little. So this is one, I'm not sure how much I enjoyed spinning this particular one. So this came as, not this one, this came as fibre from Hedgehog Fibres, and it was just absolutely dreamy as a braid. The colours were beautiful, and the finished yarn is just absolutely gorgeous. I seem to remember finding the spinning a little bit arduous, where just really not much, but a few bits were a little matted and made it a little bit tricky to work with. But as a finished single, I left it as a single. It's a little bit thick and thin. It's a little bit random. I don't quite know what I'm going to knit with this, but I'm really looking forward to seeing what it looks like knitted. Because that's one thing about fibre. What you see in the braid versus what you see in the finished yarn can be so different. I've had some where I thought that the yarn would be quite bold and bright, but in fact once you started spinning it, it was quite muted, almost pastel-y colours. And I mean, it's always nice one way or the other, but sometimes it can be quite surprising. In fact, next time I'll try and dig out something that's been that's still in the braid and something that's been spun, just for comparison. So Hedgehog Fibres, silk and merino braid, which is quite a generous, nice 125 grams. So it's nice. It gives you really something that you can work with, even if you get just a single braid. And finally, this one's going to be a recurring project or a recurring mention on the podcast, no doubt. This began as a Tour de Fleece project over a year ago, where I decided that I would make my own bats. So that's preparing the fibre into something you can spin, using, off the top of my head, a mix of Blueface Leicester, Shetland, I think, some sparkle and some silk noil, which is what provides the lovely colours in there. Then I spun three separate bobbins, so this is one, for example, and then plied 3 together, which then gives this as a result. And my friend Carrie nicknamed this the Rainbow Unicorn project. So this, in theory, would become a sweater of some sort once I finish it and actually find out what kind of yardage I end up with. But this gives you an idea of what process it goes through. So it became a bat, a big cloud. It became a single, and then it was plied. So the next step is to actually knit it into something. So we shall see. Now, for the books, I wanted to share 2 books by one particular designer who I really like, you might already be familiar with her designs. Her name is Ysolda Teague, who's based in Edinburgh in Scotland. And these are two books that I've just really enjoyed looking at. And so far, I don't think I've actually made anything from it, but that's on the cards for the next few months, especially as autumn comes in and it gets a bit cooler. So there's Little Red in the City. I really like that Ysolda has just great instructions, but also great ways to fill in the blanks and really make it to fit you and not fit some generic size 10, size 12, size 14. And it also goes from small sizes to larger sizes, which for once it's a designer who kind of accounts for the fact that there's a lot of body shapes out there. And the second one is Ysolda and Friends. So I'm not terribly familiar with Rhinebeck in the US, but it seems to be an absolutely humongous and fantastic yarn festival. So this is called the Rhinebeck sweater. As I understand it, the tradition is that you try to make a sweater, a new sweater, a special sweater that you'll wear when you go to Rhinebeck. So she teamed up with, I suppose, 11 other designers in order to provide 12 sweater patterns. And by sweater includes some cardigans, there's some colour work, there's some fairly, well, not plain, but, you know, single colour, slightly bulkier, chunkier. There's a lot of variety. I mean, there's one that's complete colour work from top to toe, and I do like it, but I think it's a little bit braver than I might be ready to tackle. So Little Red in the City, the Rhinebeck sweater, I'll put links in the show notes as well. I would love to hear what books or patterns have inspired you recently. Yeah, so next time I might take a look as well at some crochet projects or some spinning, some weaving, some resin jewellery, depending on what I've been making during the week. So I will hopefully see you on Twitter or on Ravelry, and I'll speak to you soon. Thanks, bye! All the happy days little bit of liquid courage can't speak.